Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of The Message. I'm your host, Donatus King. We'll spend this next hour with one purpose in mind, and that one purpose is delivering the message that God is Almighty. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be, is a piece of God. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be, was made by God. Everything that ever happened, is happening right now, or ever will happen, was made to happen by God. God is a master plan for all time and all creation. God is Almighty. The message is produced by the Society of Knowledge. The Society is an interdenominational ministry. Our members come from various different religious and spiritual backgrounds. We have various different religious and spiritual beliefs. Although we come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs, there's one belief that we share. There's one piece of knowledge that we hold in common. And that's the knowledge that there is a being. By no matter what name we may have been taught to call that being, by no matter what name we may have come to know that being, whether that name be God, Allah, Yahweh, Jesus, Jehovah, Buddha, nature, by no matter what name, we know that there is a being that possesses not some of the power, not most of the power, but all of the power. That's the reason we do this show, and the only reason we do this show. And that's to deliver the message that that being that personally I call God, that being is indeed Almighty. Today is December the 29th, 2022. I remind you of that fact because tonight, as we are on most Thursdays, we are live. All right, let's see. We have a very interesting show tonight, and I think I say that just about every week. As I say, today is December 29th, 2022, and this is the last show, the last message of the year 2022. And those of you that have been watching the message over the years, you know, it seems as though every year, the years go by faster and faster. When I first started doing the message, started doing the show, when we were in the studio, I had a whole lot more hair on my head. But now, you know, I have adopted this hairstyle. It's not too bad, you know, but you can tell the difference over the years. For those of you that are not familiar, the Society of Knowledge is 43 years old. We were officially incorporated in the state of Louisiana in 1979. So that's 43 years old. And we've been doing the message for over 20 years. So, you know, we've been doing this for quite a while. And then 43 years, the same message, one message, and that message is God is Almighty. So, you know, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to do that for 43 years and to be able to say it in all different kinds of ways, using all different kinds of words, but to say the same thing, three words, God is Almighty. So it's been a blessing. I acknowledge that blessing. I'm grateful to God. I thank God. I'm grateful for God for all of the blessings in this past year, 2022. All of the blessings. One of the things that I want to make sure that I did, and that's to acknowledge those that we've lost in this past year, particularly Brother Anthony Montgomery. Brother Anthony was the producer of the message at New Orleans Access Television here in the city of New Orleans. And Brother Montgomery, a young man, passed away maybe 2 or 3 months ago. very young man. I say, relatively speaking, a young man. But I want to make sure that we keep his family in our prayers. And if you have someone that you would like for us to pray for and keep in memory, post their name on Facebook, and I'll do my best to read it out as we go along tonight. So let's get into our show, right? And as we say, today is December 29th, 2022, the last message of the year, the last message of the year. Now, even though it's the last message, don't forget that we do have our fellowship, our worship service every Sunday online, and that's at 10 a.m. on Sundays. And on the second and fourth Sundays, we're online and we're also in person. But we're going to have an announcement on the screen in a minute about that. We have our announcements. For those of you that are not familiar with the format of our show, we have our announcements, then we'll have testimonies, then our religious spiritual study, and we're reminded and instructed, as always, coming out of the first book of Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 21, to prove all things and hold fast that which is good. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. And our discussion topic tonight is Kwanzaa. Some of you may have some idea, some knowledge about Kwanzaa. Some of you may not have any knowledge whatsoever about Kwanzaa. But after we finish tonight, you will have a basic understanding about Kwanzaa, what it is and what it isn't. Our words of inspiration will come out of the book of Exodus, chapter 13, verses 11 through 22. And those of you that have been following the show, you know that we've been in the book of Exodus for maybe a couple of years. In those words of inspiration. But hopefully tonight, we will be able to get to those. And if you have a King James version of the Bible, the words that you see on your screen should be exactly the same as those in your King James version of the Bible. What you see on your screen right now, that's our main website, and that's www.godisalmighty.org. I invite you, I encourage you to lock that website into your web browser, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can visit that website, and there are links on that website to all of our social media platforms. We have a blog, we have a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to have to update this list because we also have TikTok. But you don't have to worry about writing all that down. You just go to that main website and you'll see there are links. You can just click on the link and that'll bring you to our social media platforms. We do have a Lafayette, Louisiana Center of the Society of Knowledge, and that's presided over by Messenger Ryan King. And they have a production that they do, a broadcast, and that broadcast is titled The Message, live from the watering hole. And that's every other Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time on Facebook Live at the Messenger Facebook page. As you see on the screen, it said the next broadcast will be December 27th. So yes, we've missed that one. But 2 weeks from December 27th will be their next broadcast, okay? Every other Tuesday. We have a North Carolina Center of the Society of Knowledge, and that's presided over by Messenger T. Narvell, and their broadcast is entitled All Things Elevation. And again, that's presented by the North Carolina Center, and it airs on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, North Carolina is on Eastern Time, and you can catch that on Instagram at All Things Elevation 7. Instagram at All Things Elevation 7. We do have an Opelousas Center of the Society of Knowledge, and that's presided over by Messenger Corey Levier. They have not started broadcasting yet, but we're looking forward to them to start doing their broadcasting out of Opelousas. We also have a Crowley, Louisiana Center of the Society of Knowledge, and that's presided over by Messenger Frank Othello Andrews Jr. They haven't started broadcasting yet, but we are looking forward to their starting their broadcast. We had a great discussion, interesting discussion with Messenger Andrews today. Very interesting discussion, and we'll go into that. I'll go into that a little bit more as we go along. And look, there you go. Look how the Spirit works. COVID-19, please get vaccinated. And the discussion that I had with Messenger Andrews was about the COVID-19 and whether or not the Society of Knowledge itself had, as a part of its theology, anything related to COVID-19, whether or not the society supports getting vaccinated or opposes getting vaccinated. And as I explained, as we discussed, that the Society of Knowledge, the theology of the Society of Knowledge, the teaching of the Society of Knowledge is that message that God is Almighty. Okay? God is Almighty. It doesn't say anything about COVID-19. It says that God is Almighty. And as you see on the screen now, I recommend the Nodus King recommends you getting vaccinated. That's not the position of the Society of Knowledge. The Society of Knowledge does not have a position regarding you getting vaccinated. It doesn't encourage it. It doesn't dissuade it. But the Nodus King is encouraging you to get vaccinated. All right. Imani Temple, number 49 of the African American Catholic Congregation. That's presided over by Archbishop John W. Milton. He is the pastor, and that's located at 201 East Willow Street in the city of Lafayette. They have their services at 10 a.m. on Sundays, and I encourage you, if you're in the city of Lafayette on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m., to drop by in fellowship with the folks over there at Imani Temple, number 49. No matter what your religion, no matter what your faith, stop by in fellowship. They'll make you feel welcome in that home. Imani Temple number 28, that's located here in the city of New Orleans, and that's presided over by Bishop Wendy Mee. He's the pastor. And Imani Temple number 49 and number 28 are all branches of temples belonging to the African American Catholic Congregation. In Imani Temple number 28, located at 2411 Treasure Street, here in the city of New Orleans, and as I said, is presided over by Bishop Wendy Mee. The Society of Knowledge, we have our fellowship and celebration. And that's, you see, it says two different words there, fellowship and celebration. The fellowship is coming together. And while we're coming together in fellowship, we celebrate. And what we celebrate, we're celebrating the fact that God is indeed Almighty. And that's every Sunday at 10 a.m. Here on Facebook Live, on the Messenger Facebook page, and on my page, the Nodus and King. And you can also attend our fellowship and celebration in person every second and fourth Sunday at 10 a.m. at Imani Temple number 28, and that's located here at 2411 Treasure Street, here again in the city of New Orleans. I invite you to come on down. If you can't come in person, then join us on Facebook Live or join us by Zoom. But I'm going to encourage you every second and fourth Sunday to come on down. Let me see you. Come see me. Let us be together in person on the second and fourth Sunday as we do what? As we fellowship and celebrate the fact that God is indeed Almighty. The society has a part-time staff position available, and that position will assist in membership outreach and coordination. Okay, the position pays $15 an hour for 20 hours per week, and candidates for the position will be judged on their people skills, the number of social media followers and friends they have, and their ability to be a self-starter. So if you're interested in that position, or if you know someone that's interested in that position, then send your name, address, your resume, and social media addresses to messenger@societyofknowledge.org. And we say send your resume. Now, if you don't have an extensive resume, you may be a college student. You may be someone that is not in college, but someone that knows your way around social media. Okay? And someone that's interested in outreaching to people and reaching out to people and enjoy interacting with people, then you'd be a great candidate for the position. So if you're interested or you know someone that's interested, send your information to us at messenger@societyofknowledge.org. As a reminder, always, that previously recorded episodes of the message can be watched on television on Cox Cable Orleans, Channel 76, on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch previously recorded episodes of the message on our YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is DNK Messenger. Again, happy Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is a celebration. It's not a religious celebration. It's a cultural celebration. And that celebration lasts from December 26th through January 1st. December 26th, the same days every year, December 26th to January the 1st. Okay? And that's going to be our discussion topic tonight, is Kwanzaa. All right, and I invite you, I encourage you to go to the official website, and the official Kwanzaa website, and that's located at www.officialkwanzaawebsite.org. So if you want to know something about Kwanzaa, the best way to learn would be to go to the official Kwanzaa website. All right, and again, that's www.officialkwanzaawebsite.org. So Kwanzaa, what is Kwanzaa? You know, we hear people talk about Kwanzaa. We'll hear some names, some African names. See people dressed in African clothing, but don't really have much of an idea other than that about what Kwanzaa is. What you see on your screen now, that's what's called a kinara. And the kinara is symbolic of our roots, our parents' people, and our roots in continental Africa. Okay? So that's what the kinara symbolizes. And Kwanzaa is a week-long annual celebration held in the United States and other nations of the African diaspora in the Americas to honor African heritage and African American culture. It is observed from December 26th to January 1, culminating in gift giving and a feast. All right? Culminating in gift giving and a feast. Kwanzaa has 7 core principles, 7 core principles, and those 7 core principles are known as the Nguzo Saba. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But the Nguzo Saba. So 7 core principles. Kwanzaa was created by Dr. Malana Karenga and was first celebrated in 1966. And as you see, a photograph of Dr. Karenga on your screen right now. And let's see, I'm just, as you see, what I'm doing now is I'm actually going to Facebook, and see, we do have some viewers on Facebook, but for whatever reason, I'm not able to pull up those viewers right now. But those of you that are watching by Facebook, thank you for joining us. And I invite you to hit the watch button, hit the like button, hit the share button, start a watch party. Invite others to come join us in our learning as we share this information about Kwanzaa, and as we deliver that message that God is Almighty. All right. It was created, as I said, by Dr. Malana Karenga, and Kwanzaa celebrates what its founder called the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, or in Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of African heritage, which Karenga said is a communitarian African philosophy consisting of what Karenga called, or Dr. Karenga called, the best of African thought and practice in constant exchange with the world. It was developed in 1965, a year before Kwanzaa itself. These 7 principles comprise kawaida, a Swahili word meaning common. Each of the 7 days of Kwanzaa is dedicated to one of the following principles as follows. And as you see on your screen, the different days of Kwanzaa, excuse me, their African name, the principle, and the meaning, and the day that they're celebrated. So here, the 29th, okay, 29th of December, and that principle that's celebrated is Ujamaa, and that means cooperative economics. Cooperative economics. All right. And the first day, and that's celebrated on December 26th, that principle is Umoja, which means unity. And that principle is to strive for and to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Right? So that's Umoja. Right? The next principle, that's December 27th, that's Kujichagulia. And that is self-determination, to define and name ourselves, as well as to create and speak for ourselves. Okay, to define and name ourselves. And let me take this, stop this screen share for a minute. That principle, I mean, all of the principles are important, but goes to show you how the Spirit was working with me and on me a little bit earlier this evening. And how the Spirit was working on me and with me is here in the city of New Orleans. Some of you may be aware, we have one of the countries, if not the highest, per capita murder rate here in the city of New Orleans, per capita murder rate. And a number of the murders are perpetrated by members of the Black race, the African American race, by members of our race. And as the Spirit was working on me, what the Spirit was talking to me about was this very, very principle, and that's self-determination. Self-determination, to define and name ourselves, as well as to create and speak for ourselves. And how that hit me in the context of the crime problem that we have here in the city of New Orleans. And it's a crime problem that's not unique to the city of New Orleans, but many of our major urban areas are experiencing the same problem. And one of the contributors, understand what I'm telling you now, one of the contributors to that problem is how we define ourselves. Listen to what I'm saying. How we define ourselves. Now, there are many socioeconomic factors that play into this crime problem. But one of them is how we define ourselves. And what struck me earlier today is that in certain segments of our community, our young folks are defining themselves as being immoral, thuggish, not going to live to be 30 years old. And they're seeing that as being the average, ordinary behavior. See, they're looking at themselves as saying that if I don't walk around all day booted up with a pistol in my pocket, then I'm not black enough. That if I walk around and not looking like a thug, then I'm not black enough. That if I want to keep it real, then I can't dress just ordinary. I can't dress in a non-threatening manner. To keep it real, to be black, I got to walk around just looking all mean mugging, just all booted up. And not only looking that way, but be ready to do that. If somebody look at me crosswise, to be able to pull out my pistol and shoot them. So we're defining ourselves as to, it's not ordinary for a black man to be educated. It's not ordinary for a black man to go to school and learn. See, we are defining ourselves that it's not black to achieve academically. We are defining ourselves that we are not truly black people, and particularly not truly a black man, if we don't forgive somebody or excuse somebody because they bump into us while we're walking down the street. That if we really want to be a black person and somebody look at us crosswise, we got to take and jump on them right then and there. that self-determination. You see, one of the things about it is something that we're going to implement here in the society. We haven't done it yet, but something that we are going to implement in the society is this outreach, taking our young children, and I'm saying our young children, I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 years old, taking them to areas here in the city of New Orleans where there are nice 2-story brick pretty homes with well-manicured lawns, and taking them on field trips here in the city and letting them see these beautiful homes with the well-manicured lawns, with the Mercedes in the driveway, the Cadillac in the driveway, and letting them see that these homes are owned by and occupied by Black folks. That you don't have to be a thug out here to be Black. It's okay to go to school. And that there are Black folks, no matter what you see on TV, or there are Black folks that are achieving, that are accomplishing things. Self-determination. It's okay to go to school. It's okay to graduate from high school. It's okay to get a college degree. It's okay. It's okay to become a lawyer. That's not out of reach. It's okay to become a doctor. That's not out of reach. This as I said, that the Spirit was just working on me. This self-determination. Letting our young folks know that you don't have to walk around with an AK-47. You don't have to walk around at night pulling on door handles. You don't have to do that. That you can go to school, get your degree, and make more money than all them jokers that's going around here pulling on door handles. Again, that Kujichagulia, to define ourselves, who we are, to define ourselves and name ourselves and speak for ourselves. All right. So these principles, see, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Baptist, Episcopalian, Muslim, Jew. It doesn't matter what your religion is. These principles cross all of that. All of that. All right. The next principle. Let's get back, because I just have to take a minute. I had to take a minute because they said the Spirit was working on me on that. The next one, Ujima, and that's collective work and responsibility. And that's to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. Collective work and responsibility. Okay? Just a real simple thing. Volunteer. Okay, collective work. I understand that everybody doesn't have the same amount of free time. That some of us our time is consumed with earning a living, raising a family. But some of us do have some free time. So volunteer. We spoke a minute ago, I spoke a minute ago about our youth. Volunteer. There are many different youth programs that you can get involved with. There's a program here in the city of New Orleans, founded by Brother Lloyd Dennis, the Silverback Society. And that's a group of men, black men, that get together and they become mentors. And they meet with the young black men in school, and they become mentors to them. There's a Fathers Round Table. There's Boy Scouts. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Gary Winchester, the Scoutmaster of Troop 185 here in the city of New Orleans. At one time, for a brief period of time, I was a Scoutmaster of Troop 185, but Mr. Winchester has put in decades as a Scoutmaster, and he announced his retirement recently. We went to a court of honor a couple of weeks ago, and that's, get involved, all right? The collective work and responsibility. You might not have 20 hours a week. You might only have 1 hour a month, but that collective work and responsibility. Get involved. Ujima. Ujama, December 29th. So that's today's principle, December 29th, Ujama, cooperative economics. To build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Okay? And I know that sometimes it's difficult when you to say to build and maintain our own stores. Sometimes it's difficult to go into a little boutique store that an African American might own and look at the price of an item there and then say, well, I can go to Walmart and get it cheaper. And I understand that. I understand that. But if we make that conscious effort, that when we can, to support the little small local stores, whether or not it's a store like Community Bookstore here with Sister Vera Warren here in the city of New Orleans, or any other little small Black-owned store or business, that cooperative economics, the cooperative economics. And just on another level, we talk about cooperative economics. One of the things that we can do is start pooling our money together. There's a concept in business, and I spoke about not being ashamed to be educated. I have my undergraduate degree is in business pre-law. Business pre-law, that's my undergraduate degree. And we start, when I took the courses for that degree, courses such as finance, and one of the things that we don't talk about that often, and that is that cooperative financing. And when you get into the business world and you hear folks talk about things like venture capitalists, that's cooperative economics. That's folks that have money and somebody else might have an idea, and the folks with the money invest that money into the business that the person has started. So this is a way that we can be venture capitalists, and we might not have $200,000 or $100,000 to invest in a business. But if we have 1,000 or 2,000, and we get 20 or 30 of us together, that we can pool our money together and invest it into some small business and invested so that that small business can sustain itself and able to offer up quality service and quality products. That's what we're talking about, cooperative economics. Okay? And the next principle is NIA, and NIA is purpose. And that's to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Okay? To their traditional greatness. And that kind of goes back into an earlier principle. And that earlier principle was Kujichagulia, self-determination, defining ourselves. It's too many of us that have in our minds that Black people throughout the world have come from a disadvantaged position, that we've always been subjugated to others, when the reality of it is throughout history, when you look in the history of the African continent, you see the kingdoms that existed. When you look at Egypt, Egypt sits on the African continent. Egypt is a part of Africa. That's our heritage. Okay? That is our heritage. The great kings of Africa. When you look at Africa nowadays, when you look at Africa, a lot of what we see on TV and the movies will show Africa as being wilderness and wild animals roaming around. But Africa has some of the richest cities in the world. In the world, that's right, 2022. Some of the most fabulous cities and skyscrapers. Okay? Again, restoring our people to their traditional greatness. A NIA, a purpose. Next, Kuumba, creativity. To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Okay? The principle of Kuumba, creativity. You might not have the money to go to the art supply store to get the best oil paints to do your paintings. But you become creative to see what materials you have at hand to create your art. Whatever scraps you might have to make your sculpture. You might not have the money to go to a dance school, but you use your creativity to come up with your own dance routines, your own dance moves. Creativity. And finally, last but not least, Imani. Imani. And Imani meaning faith. To believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. Faith. And even though Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday, we see the principles of Kwanzaa incorporated throughout many religions in the world. And for those of my brothers and sisters that are Christian, you know that the Bible speaks about faith. And one of the things it says that if you had but the faith of a mustard seed, you could tell this mountain to move. Faith, all right? One of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and that is Imani. All right, we do have a few minutes left, and I invite you to visit the official Kwanzaa website and learn more about the celebration of Kwanzaa. And even though you heard me speaking earlier, and as we went through those symbols, Kwanzaa is not, and let me take this off the screen, Kwanzaa is not restricted to African Americans. Okay? It's not restricted to, you can be Asian, you can be white, you can be Jewish, you could be any race. And those principles of Kwanzaa still matter. Okay? Still matter. All right. So again, let's move on. And something that we have not done in many months, and that's actually get to our words of inspiration. So let's pull them up on the screen. We have a few more minutes left. Let's pull those words of inspiration up. And that's coming out of the book of Exodus, chapter 13, verses 11 through 22. And what we're reading about in the book of Exodus, we can actually see many of those Kwanzaa principles in the scriptures that we're reading. And those scriptures, remember now, the book of Exodus, that's actually out of the Jewish Bible, okay? It's a part of the Old Testament. So I spoke earlier about the Kwanzaa principles that we can find them in the Christian Bible, but this is the Jewish Bible, the Old Testament. Okay, so in Exodus, we see those principles, particularly self-determination and unity and collective work, and particularly faith. We see those same principles spoken about in the Bible. Okay, Exodus chapter 13, verses 11. And it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, as he sware unto thee and to thy fathers, and shall give it thee, that thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast, the males shall be the Lord's. Now you got to get some real good understanding on this stuff right here. Okay, some real good understanding. What has happened? What has happened is that God has delivered the children of Israel out of slavery. Okay, delivered them out of Egypt, and this is the deal that's being made. And look what it says, and it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, the land of milk and honey, as he sware unto thee, and see that swearing, that's a contract, as he sware unto thee, an agreement, and to thy fathers and shall give it thee. So God's going to give you this land of the Canaanites. And you know, we've talked about this before. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow about the Canaanites. You know, the Canaanites, this is their neighborhood, this is their homeland. You know, they've been living there. Daddy, granddaddy, great grandpa, everybody else lived there. And now these Israelites are going to come into their city and take it and say, God gave it to us. Okay? Now, I can understand. Now, I have nothing against the Jewish people, but I can understand how the Canaanites would be upset about that. This is my house. And you come tell me that God said it's yours and you take it from me. I can understand how they was upset. But this is something that God is working. And it sounds inequitable. It sounds like it's not fair. But as we said earlier, God has a master plan for all time and all creation. So God is proving to, let me pull this off the screen here. God is using this to prove to the Israelites just how great he is. You see, it wasn't good enough for God to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt. See, that wasn't enough. See, it wasn't enough for God to work all those plagues on the Egyptians. Turning the water into blood and the grasshoppers, the locusts, and the fire coming out the sky. That wasn't a great enough sign. And then the angel of death killing all the firstborn of the Egyptians. See, that wasn't enough proof, enough of a sign from God. See, God wanted these Israelites to really know in their heart that God was almighty. And he wanted to show them this, give them proof by doing all these different things. And one of the things that God said is, look, I want y'all to know who I am, know how powerful I am. So all this stuff I've done already, that ain't nothing. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to take y'all and I'm going to bring y'all into somebody else's land. And I'm so powerful that I'm going to let you take that land from them. So now there's a twofold thing going on here. So as the Israelites, as the Jews are doing this, and as they are becoming more of a firm believer, all them people whose land and stuff that they're taking, now they're starting to believe in God because they're saying, look, we have stronger armies, more soldiers, but these Israelites is coming in there, taking over. Remember who's this guy? He was a Philistine. Remember what I'm talking about? There was a guy who was a Philistine. He was a giant, a literal giant. And there's this little Israelite, little boy, that killed that giant, hit him in the head with a rock, slingshot, David. See, this is God using those Israelites to get a message across. See, sometimes we don't understand, and we might not agree with the tactics that God uses. See, because everything that we're going through is all part of God's master plan. Everything that we're going through, the good things, the bad things, everything is a part of God's master plan. And God is going to do as God will. You see, if I was calling the shots, I wouldn't have the Israelites going in and take somebody else's property. No, I'd say that's wrong. See, but I'm not calling the shots, and I'm glad I'm not calling the shots, because God has a plan that extends from before the beginning of time until after the end of time. See, because of the way God planned things and worked things out, we are still, more than 3,000 years later, we are still talking about how God delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, how God delivered the Israelites into the promised land. And that brings us back, as I close, that brings us back to the seventh principle of Kwanzaa. And that seventh principle, Imani, faith, having faith in the Almighty. No matter how things might look, having faith, knowing that God is indeed in control, knowing that God is indeed Almighty, having that faith that God knows what he's doing. And it's my prayer that in this upcoming week, in this new year, 2023, that God Almighty blesses you with that faith, blesses you with the peace that comes from that faith. In this week, no matter whatever God has planned for you, in this upcoming year, no matter whatever God has planned for you, is my prayer that God Almighty blesses you and yours with peace.